calm is confusion. They mistake the stillness of a predator for the clumsiness of prey, because their world is loud and frantic and addicted to performance. You walk into the room and say nothing, shoulders relaxed, eyes unbothered, aura unreadable. You don't rush to prove yourself. You don't compete for attention. You don't correct their assumptions. And that is exactly why they misjudge you. They laugh first. That's how it always starts, not because they're confident, but because they're uncomfortable with what they can't read. The Sigma male understands something most men never will. Power doesn't announce itself. It waits. It watches. It lets others fill the silence with their own egos. While they talk, you listen. While they posture, you observe. While they try to dominate the room, you map it. The Sigma male does not rush to clarify misconceptions. He cultivates them. He lets people believe he's less capable, less aware, and less dangerous than he truly is, because hidden power is power multiplied. When people underestimate you, they expose themselves. They speak freely. They reveal intentions. They show their insecurities, their strategies, and their weaknesses. They think they're safe because they think you're harmless. That's the illusion. The loudest man in the room is usually the weakest because he needs validation to survive. The quiet one doesn't need to prove anything. He's already in control. While others are busy performing intelligence, the Sigma becomes a ghost. Invisible, untracked, unchallenged. He moves without friction because no one feels threatened by him until it's too late. This is not stupidity. This is strategy. This is patience sharpened into a weapon. This is the art of letting others feel superior so they never see the blade. Because the Sigma male knows the real game isn't about appearing strong. It's about understanding timing. Strength revealed too early invites resistance. Strength revealed at the right moment ends the game. What you're hearing is not comfortable, not motivational, and not polite. It's dangerous knowledge. Because once you understand how Sigma males weaponize perceived incompetence, once you recognize the power of silence, restraint, and misdirection, you will never unsee it. And once you stop needing to be recognized as capable, you become untouchable. Now, step into the shadow. Number 1, the intelligence that refuses to perform. The first thing you must understand is this: real intelligence does not announce itself. It does not posture. It does not rush to be seen. And it does not compete for attention in crowded rooms. Intelligence that performs is intelligence seeking validation, and validation is a leash. The Sigma male learned this lesson early, often through silence rather than instruction. He noticed that the moment you reveal how sharp you are, the atmosphere shifts, conversations stiffen, people grow guarded, masks slide into place, honesty evaporates. Once others perceive you as mentally dangerous, they stop showing their true shape. So the Sigma chooses restraint. He withholds, not because he lacks confidence, but because he understands timing. He slows his speech deliberately. He allows sentences to arrive slightly unfinished. He lets pauses stretch past social comfort. To the untrained eye, this looks like hesitation. To those who understand power, it is control. While others rush to fill silence, the Sigma studies what fills it instead. He observes micro-reactions, word choices, emotional spikes and contradictions. This is intelligence that studies patterns instead of winning debates. Intelligence that values outcome over applause. When the Sigma pretends to misunderstand, he is not missing the point. He is testing how people behave when they believe they're intellectually superior. And people always reveal themselves in that moment. They explain too much. They repeat themselves. They become emotionally invested in being right. They overcommit to opinions that should have remained flexible. In doing so, they expose the architecture of their thinking, where they are rigid, where they are insecure, where they can be predicted. The Sigma listens without interruption. He nods. He asks neutral questions. He lets others talk themselves into clarity while he collects data. This is how he maps minds without ever drawing attention to his own. Intelligence concealed becomes intelligence multiplied. Because while others burn energy proving how smart they are, the Sigma conserves energy for precision. He does not strike early. He does not correct people publicly. He stores information quietly, like a blade kept in shadow. This is why he appears slow at first contact. This is why he is underestimated. And this is why, when stakes finally matter, he becomes impossible to outmaneuver. Number 2, ego collapse through underestimation. Ego is the most reliable weakness in human psychology because it operates automatically and blinds the person carrying it without requiring effort from the outside. It doesn't matter how intelligent, experienced, or accomplished someone is. When their ego feels safe, it loosens its grip on awareness. The Sigma male understands this at a level most people never reach. He knows that competence revealed too early creates friction, resistance, and silent competition, while competence hidden creates comfort, overconfidence, and exposure. So he allows others to feel taller in the room. He lets them dominate conversations, speak longer than necessary, and explain things he already understands. He allows them to correct him publicly, to assume authority, to believe they are leading the direction of events. He doesn't challenge this illusion because he understands exactly what it produces. Their ego expands, their posture changes, their caution dissolves. They stop checking angles and second-guessing their words. They stop accounting for variables. They assume the Sigma is not a factor worth calculating. And this is the precise moment where danger quietly begins. Because when someone believes they are superior, they stop protecting themselves from you. They speak freely, revealing intentions masked only minutes before. They plan openly, forgetting that observation itself is power. They expose insecurities, alliances, strategies, and motivations they would normally guard if they sensed a threat. The Sigma male never interrupts this process. He doesn't rush to correct perception or reclaim status. He doesn't feel insulted by temporary misjudgment because his identity is not tied to validation in the moment. He understands that hierarchy is not established through displays or words. It's established through outcomes that cannot be argued with after the fact. While others perform confidence, he collects information. While others posture, he measures timing. While others speak to be seen, he listens to understand. By the time action becomes necessary, ego has already done its damage to the other side. Their defenses are lowered. Their assumptions are wrong. Their position is exposed. At that point, the Sigma does not need to assert dominance or announce intent. Dominance is implied by results, not noise. This is why underestimation is never an insult to him. It is an invitation, an open door created by someone else's ego, walked through calmly, silently, and decisively. Number 3, silence as psychological control. Silence is uncomfortable for most people because it removes the familiar noise they use to orient themselves. It creates uncertainty, and uncertainty forces awareness inward. When the external signals disappear, the mind turns on itself. Thoughts surface, insecurities rise, internal noise becomes audible. This is why people rush to speak. They fill space to regain control, to re-establish footing, to anchor themselves in something predictable. The Sigma male does not do this. He allows silence to stretch without rescuing it. He lets it breathe. He understands that silence is not absence, it is pressure. When he says nothing, others are left alone with their assumptions. They begin to guess what he thinks, how he feels, where they stand. And in that guessing, they project. They assume disinterest, confusion, arrogance, or weakness. But what they are actually experiencing is the loss of control. Because when someone does not react, you cannot adjust yourself to them. There is no feedback loop, no emotional mirror. Silence removes reference points. It destabilizes expectations. It breaks the rhythm most people unconsciously rely on. This is why silence is power. The Sigma male understands that words are irreversible. Once spoken, they can be dissected, reframed, misquoted, and weaponized. Words lock you into positions. Silence keeps you fluid. Silence forces others to move. First, they begin to explain themselves. They justify. They fill the void with nervous details. They seek reassurance without asking for it directly. They reveal emotional investment through overclarification. Every extra sentence they add becomes information. Every attempt to manage the silence exposes motive, need, or insecurity. And the Sigma watches without interfering. Not because he lacks empathy, but because he values position. He knows that meaning enters a room only once. Timing matters. When he finally speaks, his words land heavier because they are not diluted by noise. Silence allows him to remain undefined. And the undefined cannot be accurately attacked. You cannot aim at what you cannot map. This is why he feels elusive. This is why people describe him as hard to read, distant, or intimidating. The truth is simpler and colder. He refuses to give away position prematurely. He understands that presence does not require performance, that strength does not announce itself, and that the one who controls silence controls the frame. Number 4, the dumb mask as a filter for human intent. Not everyone deserves access to competence, and the Sigma male understands this with a clarity most never reach. He knows that the moment ability is revealed, the environment shifts. Skill invites expectation. Intelligence attracts dependence. Strength provokes envy. People stop seeing you as a person and start seeing you as a resource. So he withholds, not out of fear, not out of insecurity, but out of precision. He understands that visibility is not neutral. It creates obligations, projections, and silent contracts you never agreed to sign. The Sigma refuses those contracts before they are written. He allows the world to interact with a reduced version of him, a controlled surface, a shadow instead of the source. In that shadow, human nature relaxes, masks fall. People speak freely when they believe there is nothing to gain. Some remain respectful, even when they assume he has little to offer. Others become careless, arrogant, and dismissive, revealing how quickly respect collapses when advantage disappears. This is not confusion. This is truth revealed under false assumptions, and truth in this form is uncontaminated. The Sigma male watches without interference. He doesn't interrupt. He doesn't correct. He doesn't rush to prove himself. He lets the mask absorb the interaction while he observes the patterns beneath it. He notices who talks down to him, who ignores him, and who suddenly loses interest when there is no perceived benefit. He records this quietly, without emotion, because emotion clouds data. This information tells him everything. Those who belittle him when they think he is insignificant would have exploited him the moment his value became visible. Those who vanish were never loyal. They were transactional. The mask filters them out before damage is possible. It prevents parasites from attaching and opportunists from positioning themselves close. What remains is rare and precise. People who show respect without incentive, who offer decency without leverage, and who treat him well even when they believe he cannot elevate them. This is why the Sigma's circle is small. It is not loneliness, it is refinement. Every person allowed close has passed a test they never knew existed. The Sigma understands that attention is not always a reward. Often it is a tax that drains time, energy, and autonomy. The so-called dumb mask is not self-denial. It is discipline. It is restraint sharpened into strategy. It is quality control applied to human access. In a world that consumes strength on sight, the Sigma survives by revealing nothing until the exact moment revelation becomes a weapon rather than a liability. Number 5, strategic naivety and the trap of overconfidence. Overconfidence is not strength, it is delayed failure, a slow leak disguised as certainty. And the Sigma male understands this at a level most people never reach because most people crave visibility, validation, and early dominance. When people think they have you figured out, they stop adapting, they stop scanning for threats, they stop sharpening their instincts, and instead they lock themselves into assumptions that feel safe, because familiarity always feels like control. This is where strategic naivety becomes lethal. The Sigma male deliberately operates just below expectation, not because he lacks ability, but because he understands that attention is a liability before it is an asset. He arrives later than others, not rushed by urgency. He speaks less, not because he has nothing to say, but because silence forces others to fill the gaps with projections that expose their thinking. He reacts slower, not from hesitation, but from calculation, allowing others to mistake patience for weakness. In doing so, he permits people to believe they are ahead of him, and belief is far more dangerous than reality, because belief shapes behavior. Once people believe they are winning, they commit fully, emotionally and strategically to paths that no longer account for unseen variables. They reveal patterns, routines, limits, and dependencies. They exhaust resources, burn bridges, and lock themselves into positions that require the Sigma to remain predictable. But he never was. By the time awareness dawns, there is no room left to adjust, no leverage left to pull, no exit wide enough to escape the consequences of earlier certainty. This is not deception for the sake of manipulation, not cheap trickery or hollow theatrics. This is deception for positioning, for survival, for inevitability. The Sigma male does not need applause in the opening act, nor does he need to dominate the room early to feel powerful. He understands that winning early often means losing control later. He plays the long game because the long game favors those who conserve energy, information, and intent. Overconfidence ensures others reveal everything before the Sigma reveals anything. When the shift finally happens, it feels sudden to everyone else, like a reversal of fate, like reality bending without warning. But nothing about it was sudden. Every silence, every delay, every underestimated moment was part of a quiet architecture built in the shadows. And by the time it becomes visible, the outcome is already sealed. Number 6, why this makes Sigma males dangerous. The reason this strategy unsettles people is because it disrupts social logic at its core. We are conditioned from an early age to believe that power announces itself that confidence must be loud, and that intelligence should signal itself clearly through words, status, or dominance. Society teaches people how to rank one another quickly, who matters, who leads, and who follows. The Sigma male violates this entire framework. He does not broadcast strength. He does not perform intelligence. He does not compete for visibility. Instead, he moves quietly outside predictable hierarchy signals, and that makes him impossible to measure with ordinary tools. People assume he is passive, slow, unambitious, or uninformed because he does not rush to prove anything. They speak freely around him. They reveal intentions, weaknesses, insecurities, and strategies without resistance. They mistake his silence for absence. But silence is not emptiness. It is data collection. When people eventually realize he was never dumb, the shock is not intellectual. It is existential. It forces them to confront the fact that they misread reality itself. It means they expose their true selves without pressure. It means the version of the Sigma they interacted with was never real, only a projection shaped by their own assumptions. That realization creates fear, not because he suddenly becomes threatening, but because control was lost without being noticed. If someone can move among you unnoticed, observe without reacting, and act without warning, then the environment you believed was stable is no longer secure. This is why Sigma males are described as dangerous, not because they are violent or chaotic, but because they are disciplined, patient, and strategically invisible. They are not trying to dominate rooms or win social battles in real time. They are focused on outcomes that unfold later, quietly, irreversibly. While others argue, posture, and perform, the Sigma waits. He lets time do the work. By the time results appear, explanations are unnecessary. Words become irrelevant. The Sigma does not need credit. He does not seek validation or acknowledgement. He does not correct misunderstandings. He allows people to remain wrong. What he leaves behind are outcomes and silence. And in that silence, people finally understand what they missed, what they revealed, and why they never saw it coming. In a world that constantly asks men to choose a single identity, a single direction, a single definition of who they are supposed to be, something unusual happens when a Sigma male walks into the picture. He does not declare himself. He does not announce his talents. He does not demand to be seen. And yet, he is noticed, not because he tries to stand out, but because he moves differently from everyone else. While most men feel pressured to specialize, to narrow down their abilities, the Sigma male quietly becomes good, sometimes exceptionally good, at many things. He never sets out to be impressive. He simply follows curiosity, discipline, and internal standards that rarely match what society expects of him. If you observe him long enough, you'll notice a pattern. He is the kind of man who learns skills without fanfare, who adapts quickly to new environments, and who understands social dynamics without needing to dominate them. He is the man who can hold a meaningful conversation, fix a practical problem, build something from scratch, read people accurately, and navigate life with an unusual blend of logic and intuition. Not because he is trying to be superior, but because he values competence, quiet, private mastery that strengthens his independence. In many ways, the Sigma male resembles an old-world craftsman, methodical, observant, and patient. He treats life as an ongoing apprenticeship. Every situation becomes a classroom. Every challenge becomes a lesson. and every silence becomes an opportunity to understand deeper truths about himself and the world around him. While others rush through life chasing status, he slows down to sharpen his skills. While others compete loudly, he improves quietly. And while others chase recognition, he builds competence that requires no audience. This is why people often underestimate him at first. They see only fragments of who he is, unaware that beneath the calm exterior lies a remarkably wide range of abilities: emotional, intellectual, practical, and strategic. His strength is not in specializing, but in expanding, exploring, learning, and integrating. He is never just one thing. He is a mosaic of strengths, crafted over years of self-directed growth. And so today we explore why the Sigma male becomes a jack of all trades, not by accident, not by ambition, but as the natural rhythm of his personality. A rhythm built on independence, curiosity, and a deep desire to master life entirely on his own terms. Point 1, the Sigma learns by observation, not competition. The first and perhaps most defining characteristic of the Sigma male is his observational nature. While many men learn through competition, rivalry, and external motivation, the Sigma learns through careful, quiet watching. He studies patterns, human behavior, practical processes, emotional cues, and social dynamics, without needing to insert himself into the environment. This creates a kind of layered learning that accumulates slowly but deeply over time. Instead of rushing to prove himself, he allows information to settle into his mind through repeated exposure. He picks up skills by simply being present, being attentive, and being quietly analytical. This leads to a wide range of subtle competencies. He understands people without needing long conversations. He grasps systems without needing detailed tutorials. And he learns strategies without needing direct instruction. Over time, he becomes someone who absorbs knowledge the way others breathe, naturally, without strain, without the need for recognition. Psychologically, this form of learning is linked to high observational intelligence and adaptive cognition. People who learn this way develop flexible mental models, allowing them to transfer what they learn from one area of life to another with ease. This quiet mental adaptability becomes one of the Sigma male's great strengths. He's not just learning facts, he's learning how things work, how people operate, and how environments behave. Because of this, he moves through the world with a sense of internal clarity that does not rely on external validation. He does not need to display dominance or engage in loud competition. His pursuit is not dominance, but mastery. His motivation is not applause, but understanding. He knows that the most powerful strategies are not always spoken, and the deepest knowledge is gathered in silence. The Sigma male studies without seeking approval, and he applies what he learns only when it serves a genuine purpose. Over years and decades, this builds a man who understands far more than he ever verbalizes. His silence becomes a reservoir of insight. His calm presence becomes a tool for decoding reality. He becomes the kind of man who sees what others miss, interprets what others overlook, and learns what others ignore. And because he gathers knowledge without needing to compete, he develops a wide array of skills that appear almost effortless to those who watch him. Yet they are the product of a lifetime of quiet, deliberate observation. Point 2, his independence forces him to become self-sufficient. The Sigma male's lifestyle is built on independence, not as an act of rebellion, but as a natural orientation. He does not rely heavily on others, not because he rejects connection, But because his default mindset is simple, if I can learn this myself, I will. This quiet inner philosophy becomes the foundation of a life shaped by self-education, self-mastery, and self-guided growth. Over time, this internal posture towards self-sufficiency creates a broad and diverse set of abilities that many people never develop. When something breaks, he learns to fix it. When a problem appears, he studies it until he understands it. When emotional challenges surface, he works through them privately before seeking outside assistance. This pattern of self-directed responsibility strengthens his emotional resilience, sharpens his problem-solving intelligence, deepens his critical thinking, and expands his practical life skills, skills that others often overlook because they have always had someone else to rely on. A man who depends on others becomes specialized. A man who depends on himself becomes versatile. This is the quiet truth behind the Sigma's multidimensional nature. He is not shaped by society's framework of narrow expertise. He is shaped by necessity, curiosity, and an inner drive to stand firmly on his own 2 feet. He does not aspire to excel in just one domain. He seeks to become capable enough to navigate the world on his own terms. Decades of living this way sculpt a strong, multi-skilled individual who can move through life without excessive guidance or reassurance. He understands finances, relationships, boundaries, craftsmanship, emotional regulation, and practical survival. Not because he formally studied these fields, but because independence required him to know enough about each to function with confidence. This is why many Sigma males appear naturally competent. They are not loud about their abilities and they never chase validation. But when life demands action, they respond with calm capability. Their independence becomes a lifelong training ground that no external institution could replicate, forging a man who is adaptable, grounded, and profoundly self-reliant. Point 3, his curiosity is not selective, it is universal. Curiosity is one of the most powerful drivers of human development, and the Sigma male possesses a unique, inward-facing form of it. While most people limit their interests to what is socially rewarding or externally validated, the Sigma is drawn to subjects purely because they fascinate him on a personal, almost private level. He might dive into philosophy, psychology, fitness, technology, craftsmanship, economics, art, or human behavior, not for praise, not for status, but for the quiet satisfaction of expanding his inner world. This broad, self-directed interest pattern creates a multidimensional skill set that grows with him over time. His curiosity does not arrive with urgency, nor does it demand rapid results. It unfolds slowly, gently, like a steady flame that never extinguishes. He learns without rush, explores without pressure, and builds knowledge without imposing deadlines on himself. This slow, burning approach allows his mind to absorb information deeply rather than superficially. Because he does not chase external approval, his learning remains pure, driven by genuine interest rather than comparison or competition. And this open, relaxed curiosity leads him to connect ideas across domains in ways others rarely do. He might see parallels between emotional intelligence and strategic thinking, or understand how physical discipline influences mental clarity. He may notice how economics mirrors human behavior, or how artistic expression reveals psychological patterns. These subtle yet powerful connections deepen his versatility, enabling him to approach life from multiple angles with creativity and insight. Over time, because he explores widely and fearlessly. His mind becomes a quiet library, filled with frameworks, models, stories, insights, and practical tools gathered from many different fields. He rarely showcases this knowledge openly, and he never uses it to appear superior. Yet, when a moment arises that requires clarity, perspective, or a solution that others cannot see, the depth of his understanding becomes unmistakable. His curiosity becomes his silent advantage, shaping him into a profoundly capable man whose versatility is born not from ambition, but from genuine fascination with life itself. Point 4. He thrives in solitude, where skill development flourishes. For the Sigma male, solitude is not a retreat, it is a workshop. While many people experience loneliness when alone, he experiences clarity. The absence of noise, expectation, and social performance allows him to focus deeply on personal development. In these quiet, uninterrupted spaces, his mind opens in ways that crowded environments never permit. In solitude, he reads, he works, he practices, he thinks, and he experiments. These quiet hours accumulate into competence. The world may not see what he does during these hours, but the results appear slowly and consistently throughout his life. What looks like natural talent to others is often just the product of countless moments spent in deliberate refinement. Deep work, uninterrupted, focused effort, is one of the most powerful forms of skill acquisition. Sigma males unintentionally become masters of deep work because their personality naturally gravitates towards silent environments and self-directed activity. Where many people need accountability partners, noise, or external motivation, the Sigma thrives on internal drive. This is where he develops emotional intelligence, introspection, practical skills, creativity, and intellectual depth. His solitude becomes a personal classroom, a laboratory for growth, and a sanctuary where he can strengthen the mind without distraction. This is also where he forms strong personal philosophies and mental resilience. He does not simply react to life. He studies it, interprets it, and builds frameworks that guide him with stability and purpose. Because he engages with his inner world so consistently, he becomes a man who is not easily shaken by external chaos. Solitude sharpens him, shapes him, and strengthens him. And because he spends more time in this state than the average man, he accumulates more layers of self-development. Over time, this inner work becomes visible in the way he carries himself, in his calmness, his emotional balance, his strategic thinking, and his quiet but unmistakable confidence. While others chase validation, the Sigma invests in refinement. While others fear being alone, he transforms isolation into mastery. And it is this discipline, this lifelong inward commitment, that ultimately makes him stand apart. Point 5, he adapts quickly because he thinks independently. Adaptability is often misunderstood. Many believe it requires constant flexibility, but in truth, it requires independence, freedom from rigid groupthink. The Sigma male is not tied to collective expectations. He does not adjust himself to fit groups. He adjusts himself to fit reality. This distinction is subtle but powerful. While others bend themselves to match the shifting opinions of the crowd, the Sigma male anchors himself in inner clarity. This freedom from social conditioning allows him to think clearly in situations where others are clouded by emotion or conformity. When people panic, he observes. When people rush, he pauses. When people cling to the familiar, he is willing to explore the unknown. He can change strategies without hesitation, pivot without fear, and rethink his approach without waiting for approval. This mental autonomy becomes a stabilizing force, especially in moments of uncertainty. Instead of reacting impulsively, he recalibrates with intention. Instead of seeking validation, he seeks understanding. This independent thinking gives him an edge in unpredictable environments. He becomes a man who can handle crisis with calmness, transition with stability, and adapt without losing his identity. Where others may crumble under pressure, he restructures his approach. Where others become overwhelmed by change, he moves through it with deliberate steps. Over time, this adaptability becomes a skill in itself, a meta skill that enhances every other ability he possesses. It sharpens his decision-making, strengthens his emotional intelligence, and deepens his resilience. Adaptability requires broad competence. It requires awareness, flexibility, and emotional regulation. The Sigma male naturally cultivates these qualities, which allow him to navigate challenges with a level-headed composure that others often admire. His strength is not loud or dramatic. It is quiet, grounded, and precise. He adapts not because he must, but because he understands that evolution is the true mark of mastery. Point 6. He values mastery over recognition. The final reason the Sigma becomes a jack of all trades is simple yet profound. He seeks mastery, not recognition. Most people learn skills to impress others, gain status, or receive validation. Their motivation is external, and because of this, their learning is shallow. They chase applause, they mirror trends, and they abandon anything that doesn't earn immediate praise. But the Sigma male moves in the opposite direction. He learns because he values competence. He likes knowing he can rely on himself, even when the world around him is unreliable. He likes understanding how things work, not to show off, but to create a quiet sense of inner order. He likes feeling capable, grounded, and internally aligned, as if each skill he collects strengthens the architecture of his character. This inward motivation leads him to develop skills deeply and privately. There is no audience, no scoreboard, and no desire for public reward. He measures his progress through personal satisfaction, usefulness, and internal harmony, markers that cannot be taken away by public opinion. He develops a kind of self-trust that is rare in a world obsessed with comparison. The Sigma knows that mastery is its own reward. It sharpens him, it steadies him, it prepares him. And over time, this commitment to mastery, not for admiration, but for self-respect, creates a man with profound versatility. He becomes strong where others are fragile, because he does not depend on external reinforcement to keep moving. He becomes prepared where others are overwhelmed, because quiet practice has already carved pathways for competence. He becomes skilled where others are narrow, because he learns widely, patiently, and without ego. His abilities become layered, integrated, and resilient, not because he works harder, but because he works differently. His learning is not frantic, it is steady, it is not performative, it is personal. His life becomes a long, continuous cultivation of ability, a slow sharpening of the mind, a deepening of understanding, and a calm journey toward becoming a fully capable man. And in this way, the Sigma male becomes the true jack of all trades, not out of ambition, but out of alignment. Not out of pride, but out of purpose. And so, as we come to the end of this quiet reflection, remember this: the Sigma male's strength is not measured in noise, reputation, or the approval of the world. His depth is not a performance. His abilities are not crafted for display. They are the natural result of a man who has chosen to grow inwardly, patiently, and consistently without waiting for permission or applause. The world may never fully understand why he can do so many things well. It may never see the countless hours of solitude where clarity was shaped, the silent observations where wisdom was formed, or the internal challenges he overcame without saying a word. But he understands, and for a Sigma male, that is enough. If you see yourself anywhere in this journey, allow this truth to settle gently within you. You do not need to narrow who you are to fit into a box. You do not need to choose only one path. You are allowed to be layered. You are allowed to evolve. You are allowed to master your life quietly without performing for the world. Walk your path with intention. Build your skills with patience. Let your curiosity lead you. Let your independence strengthen you. And let your mastery be something you carry, not to impress others, but to deepen your sense of self-reliance and inner peace. Thank you for spending this time in reflection. If this message resonated with you, stay with us for more calm, grounded explorations into the mind, habits, and quiet power of the Sigma male. Until next time, walk gently, think deeply, and continue becoming the man only you can be. Take a moment, breathe in, and allow your awareness to sink gently into that quiet inner room where deeper understanding takes shape. Most people imagine heartbreak as something loud, something dramatic, chaotic, or overflowing with visible emotion. But when a Sigma male experiences heartbreak, an entirely different process unfolds. There is no shouting, no frantic attempts to hold on, and no desperate display of loss. Instead, he retreats into a silence so deep and steady that those around him can sense a shift, even if they cannot explain it. A Sigma male has spent most of his life mastering solitude. He relies on his own reasoning, his own emotional grounding, and his own inner world. He does not love impulsively. He does not attach without intention. His heart is not easily accessed, and when he chooses to let someone in, it is a deliberate, meaningful choice. So when that rare trust is broken, the impact is not theatrical, but it is profound. What happens inside him is like a quiet earthquake beneath the surface. You cannot see it, but you can feel the rearrangement of everything built above it. This is why his heartbreak can seem unsettling to those who witness it. Not because he collapses, but because he transforms. He withdraws, not to hide, but to recalibrate. A Sigma male processes pain by analyzing it, understanding it, and stripping it down to its core truths. He studies the experience as if it were data, dispassionately, thoroughly, and with a long-term perspective. In this period of introspection, he begins to identify what no longer aligns with the man he is evolving into. He releases people, habits, and emotional patterns that once held meaning, but no longer serve his growth. His silence is not emptiness, it is restructuring. It is the lone wolf stepping deeper into the forest, not out of fear, but out of instinct, returning to the place where his strength is rebuilt. In that stillness, the Sigma male undergoes a subtle but powerful metamorphosis, one that determines who he becomes next, how he moves forward, and what new boundaries will define his life. And today, we're going to explore exactly what unfolds inside that silence. Let's begin. Point 1, he withdraws into deep, intentional solitude. When heartbreak touches a Sigma male, the very first instinct is not to react, but to retreat. This solitude is not isolation born of despair. It is a deliberate movement from the external world into the internal one. A Sigma male understands intuitively that human emotion is not something to project outward, but something to observe from a place of quiet detachment. Imagine a scientist entering a controlled environment to study an intricate phenomenon. That is the Sigma's mind during heartbreak. He steps back from social interactions not because he cannot face others, but because he no longer wishes to absorb unnecessary noise. He removes himself from group settings, reduces conversations, and allows his nervous system to settle into neutrality. This process can last days, weeks, sometimes months. Psychologically, this is known as emotional recalibration. The Sigma male refuses to drown in the collective emotional narratives society expects from men. Instead, he creates space, broad, silent space, where he can assess the situation without the distortion of impulse or the influence of external opinions. To others, his disappearance can feel cold, distant, or even alarming. But to the Sigma, this solitude is the foundation for clarity. He knows that emotional turbulence does not resolve itself through expression. It resolves itself through understanding, and understanding requires quiet. In this solitude, he reconnects with the parts of himself that may have softened or stretched to accommodate the relationship. A Sigma male is self-contained by nature. When he shares his life with someone, he naturally expands to make room for them. So when heartbreak comes, he contracts, not in a negative sense, but in the same way a muscle contracts to regain strength. This contraction is a return to internal equilibrium. Instead of seeking validation, comfort, or distraction, he begins evaluating the deeper lessons embedded in the experience. He notices patterns, traces emotional triggers, and reflects on the boundaries he may have allowed to blur. He does not blame himself, nor does he villainize the other person. He simply studies the truth as it is, without embellishment. And as days pass, something subtle but powerful happens. The Sigma male begins rebuilding. Quietly, without announcement, he strengthens the mental structures that define his independence. His focus sharpens, his goals regain priority, his emotional world reorganizes itself into calm order. To most people, this phase appears uneventful, but to the Sigma male, it is the essential reconstruction of his inner architecture. It is here, in the silent chamber of solitude, that he transforms heartbreak into wisdom and emerges even more self-possessed, steady, and untouchable than before. Point 2, he conducts a quiet, honest autopsy of the relationship. Once the Sigma male has returned to his internal world, a deeper and more intricate process begins to unfold, one that is almost invisible to the outside world, yet profoundly transformative within him. He analyzes the relationship not through the haze of emotion, but through the lens of quiet, deliberate reasoning. There is no vindictiveness in his reflection, no desire to assign fault or inflate ego. Instead, he enters the role of a detached observer, studying the timeline of the connection as though it were a psychological case file rather than a personal catastrophe. Modern psychology calls this cognitive processing, an intentional method of examining emotional events without allowing those events to shape or distort your identity. And while many people avoid this process because it can be uncomfortable, the Sigma male steps into it willingly. He begins to ask himself questions most individuals never dare to explore. What did I contribute to this dynamic? What patterns were present that I ignored? What truths were whispered to me that I chose not to hear? Which needs were expressed and which remained unspoken or unmet? He is not searching for blame, he is searching for truth. To a Sigma male, truth holds far more value than emotional comfort. He would rather face a difficult reality than cling to a soft illusion. This pursuit of clarity invites him into deeper territory. The process can be painful, not because it destroys him, but because it illuminates hidden pieces of himself that remain silent during the relationship. Old wounds that still remember their origin. Subconscious expectations shaped long before adulthood. Unspoken fears that influenced his behavior and assumptions he never realized he held. But unlike most men, the Sigma does not retreat into defensiveness. He does not push responsibility outward or rewrite the story to protect his pride. If he contributed to the downfall, he faces it with honesty and humility, without spiraling into self-criticism. If the other person contributed, he acknowledges it without bitterness, recognizing human imperfection without assigning moral superiority. It is within this unfiltered honesty that the Sigma male reaches a rare state, clarity, a clear, undistorted understanding of what truly happened, free from emotional distortion or ego preservation. And this clarity becomes the foundation upon which his transformation is built. He does not heal by avoidance. He does not heal by distraction. He heals by seeing reality as it is. And in that understanding, he begins to rise anew. Point 3, he upgrades himself instead of seeking validation or revenge. Once the Sigma male reaches clarity, a shift occurs, the emotional fog lifts, and a new disciplined energy begins to take shape. Many men try to win the breakup through performance, attention-seeking, or superficial achievements, but the Sigma male sees no value in proving himself to someone who is no longer part of his life. Instead, he quietly begins to improve. He might return to old routines that he had paused. He might start reading more, training harder, sleeping better, or refocusing on long-term goals that had been sidelined. Psychologists call this post-traumatic growth, the profound development that occurs after emotional adversity. For the Sigma male, this is not a theory, but a lived experience. He does not run toward distraction, he gravitates toward evolution. His heartbreak becomes the raw material from which he forges a higher, more resilient version of himself. His inner reservoir of discipline deepens, his standards sharpen, his masculine core strengthens in ways that others cannot easily see, yet they can always feel. He does not view heartbreak as evidence of failure. Instead, he interprets it as proof that he was capable of deep emotional investment, and anything genuine, whether successful or not, always carries wisdom within it. In this phase of rebuilding, subtle but powerful changes begin to unfold. His silence becomes stronger, no longer heavy with emotion, but steady with intention. His presence becomes sharper, radiating a quiet confidence rooted in self-respect. His focus becomes more intense, directed toward goals that truly matter rather than temporary feelings. People may not know what he is doing behind the scenes, but they sense the transformation taking place. This is the moment when the Sigma male begins to ascend into a more refined version of himself, not for attention, not for revenge, and not to spark envy, but because growth is his natural response to pain. He knows that emotional wounds can either weaken a man or sculpt him, and he chooses the latter every time. While others spiral, he recalibrates. While others chase validation, he increases his internal value. While others look backward, he evolves forward. Heartbreak does not break the Sigma male. It refines him, sharpens him, focuses him, and ultimately ushers him into a higher chapter of self-mastery that he may never have reached without the pressure that pain created. Point 4. He closes the door quietly, calmly, and completely. Something unique happens once a Sigma male reaches the point of emotional clarity and personal renewal. He does not go back. Where many men revisit old connections, reopen old wounds, or entertain old flames, the Sigma male does the opposite. Once he decides the chapter is closed, it becomes irreversibly closed. This is not emotional coldness. It is emotional integrity. A Sigma male values trust at the highest level. And once trust is fractured, the bond that once held meaning dissolves. He does not return out of loneliness or nostalgia. He does not negotiate for temporary comfort. He does not allow mixed signals or emotional ambiguity. His boundary becomes absolute. This is one of the most misunderstood aspects of Sigma psychology. People assume he doesn't care. But the truth is that he cares so deeply, so intensely, that reopening the wound would be a violation of his own emotional code. When he walks away, it is quiet. There are no dramatic speeches, no final arguments, no sarcastic remarks, just calm acceptance. And as he moves forward, he does so with a level of emotional maturity that many fail to recognize in the moment. The Sigma male's silence isn't a retreat. It's a conscious realignment. It is the final act of reclaiming his peace. Because while others may cling to the familiar even when it hurts them, the Sigma male refuses to remain where his spirit can no longer grow. His departure is not impulsive. It is the result of long reflection, internal dialogue,